Like to call to order tonight's Charter Township of Oxford Planning Commission regular meeting, Thursday, May 8th, 2025. If we could start the meeting with everybody standing and paying respects to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 3, note the roll.
Noted, there is a quorum.
Moving on to 4, approval of tonight's agenda, but I do need to make one adjustment under new business. Just for discussion, we'll talk about the safety path appointment. So if we can make that change, and then we will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda
With the noted change.
with the noted change about the safety path appointment.
Okay.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Number 5, conflicts of interest, ex parte contact. Does anybody have anything for tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to approval of the minutes, Planning Commission regular meeting, April 24, 2025. Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting on April 24th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion or things they found in the notes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Number 7, public comment on items not scheduled for public hearing or on tonight's agenda. If anybody has anything they would like to discuss or bring up that's not on tonight's agenda. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to number 8, commissioners' comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to share, bring up, discuss? Seeing none, we will move to number 9, petitions. And just for everybody's reference, the way these are going to work is we will start off, number 1, with a presentation by our planner, followed by a presentation by the petitioner. Once that is completed, we will open up public hearing, public testimony, followed by closing the public hearing, comments from our township consultants and staff. The board will review any correspondence that may have come in. The commissioners will have a discussion and a motion and a vote. And just for reference, during the public testimony, any members of the public wishing to address the commission during a public hearing shall give their name, address, and their position on the topic. You will be limited to 3 minutes, which will be reflected on this timer, which will go off at 3 minutes, and we will ask you to wrap up your final thoughts. All of your discussions will be addressed to the chair. It is a discussion or you're addressing only. It's not a back and forth discussion. So we're here to hear you, but not engage in dialogue back and forth. No person shall be permitted to speak twice on the same issue until everyone has been heard and has had a chance to speak. And if they have anything new to add to what they'd already talked about. And finally, no person other than commissioner members, township consultants, and staff shall be allowed to address an issue for the public hearing following the closing of the public hearing. So with that, petition A, zoning ordinance text amendment, the petitioner, Oxford Township Board, public hearing in motion. The petitioner is requesting to update Article 16, Section 8 regarding the requirements and use of performance guarantees.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mateo Pasalacqua, Carlisle Goodman Associates with the Planning Consultants for the Township. So for tonight, for your first public hearing item, you have a text amendment in front of you. I'm gonna go kind of big picture on this. This was put together more or less by the Building Department and your legal counsel. But in your zoning ordinance, there are some mechanisms there as it relates to performance guarantees. The way that your ordinance is structured right now is, it's somewhat, it can create somewhat of a burden to, or at least an impediment to development for the types of requirements that you have for your current performance guarantees. It can also put the township in somewhat of an awkward position if the project doesn't go through, more or less in the light that the cost of putting up with certain guarantees and the types of guarantees that can be offered, at least initially when the development begins, can be quite cost prohibitive. It also kind of puts the township in a difficult position if the project doesn't go through, in which the township might be actually responsible for completing the project. So the township is not in the business of finishing projects that fail. The township is in the business of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So the amendments that are in front of you this evening really look to provide a lot more clarity in your performance guarantees, what kind of lines of credit, cash, bonds, bank letters can be used. It reduces the amount, and that amount is, the reduction in that amount is a level to ensure that should something happen to a project, the township has the resources to go in and make the site safe and secure, but not necessarily be in a position of expectation to finish it. That's big picture stuff. I thought the memo that the Kelly firm put together that you have in your packets this evening kind of did a better job of the granular description of that. I can answer any questions as best as possible. But this was really brought forward by the township board and the building department, because it's coming up in conversations when we get to site plan projects and things of that nature. So the township wanted to get out in front of it and get it addressed.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for? Okay, seeing none. I'm assuming that's also the presentation by the petitioner?
Yes, one of the same.
Okay, with that, we will open public hearing. I'll have a motion to open public hearing.
Mr. Chair, let's make a motion to, a motion to open the public hearing, public comment.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to open tonight's public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is open at 6:38. If anyone from the public would like to speak on this topic. Don't all jump at once.
Just request them first, are we gonna hear from the requester of the rezoning first about what's going to be done?
We're talking about the topic A, the ordinance text.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me then.
Seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to close public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed at 6:39. Any more comments or discussions for or from the township team? Okay. Okay. We didn't receive any correspondence on this, did we? None.
No.
Okay. Then we will move to 7. Any discussion, any questions from commissioners? We'll start down at this end.
No.
Nothing?
I'm good.
Nothing for me.
Nothing.
Okay, with that, we will entertain a motion on this topic. Anybody would like to make a motion on this?
I move to recommend approval of the changes referred to in the attached red line revisions of section 16.8 performance guarantees of the township zoning ordinance to the Board of Trustees as presented.
A second?
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Can we do a roll call vote?
Bailey?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Sploshik?
Yes.
Blankenship?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. All right, we will move on to petition PC 25-005. Petitioner VAQ-E LLC 29201 Telegraph Suite 410 Southfield, Michigan 48034. Public hearing in motion. The petitioner is requesting a zoning map amendment to rezone parcel ID 0422151015 from C1 local commercial to C2 general commercial. The vacant parcel is located on the southwest corner of Market Street and Lapeer Road, M24, and is approximately 8.39 acres. We will go through the same agenda, so if we want to start with our planner.
Again, Mayor Pasalakwa, Carlisle Workman Associates, we are the township planning consultants. Let me just get to the report so you can see. Okay. All right, so as we stated earlier, the applicant is requesting a zoning change for the parcel located at the southwest corner of Market Street, Lapeer Road. The process for this is that the planning commission makes a recommendation to the township board. The township board has the ultimate approval denial authority for any rezonings or text amendments. Current zoning of the site is C1 local commercial. The requested zone is C2 general commercial. Parcel is approximately 8.4 gross acres and is vacant with the exception of the Waterstone development entryway structures along Lapeer Road. No formal site plan's been submitted with the rezoning. The site is bordered by C1, C2, and recreational zoning districts. The parcels are either operating portions of the golf course or vacant themselves. If approved, the lot would conform to C2 dimensional requirements, and the permitted and special land uses for C2 were included in our review for this evening. In looking at the natural features, no natural feature information was provided with the application, which is common for rezoning. So these are just kind of our general observations. The site is relatively flat. Eagle Wetland Mapper does indicate that there might be some wetlands on site or nearby. There's no woodland features present on the site. No bodies of water are on the site, although you can see from the picture there that it is near one of the canals that kind of goes up in through the golf course. So with rezonings, we always take a look at the master plan. Your 2019 master plan future land use designation for the site is village mixed use. Per that designation, the types of uses envisioned for the site in the future would be some combination of commercial, office, retail, residential. The only residential that's permitted in C1 and C2 is upper story residential, just for reference. The draft master plan that you have now, the future land use still has this designated as mixed use. Again, your 2019 is your adopted plan, that's when you go off of, but we are close to closing out the new master plan as well, so it's kind of there for context. A commercial land use goal that is stated in the 2019 plan indicates that commercial and office uses should be located primarily along M24 and in proximity to the village of Oxford. However, limited retail and service operations servicing neighborhoods should be considered along other major thoroughfares as well. Again, we just kind of try to tee up some relevant information from the master plan as you consider these rezoning requests. When we talk about development potential, if rezoned, the lot would allow for more types of commercial retail uses, as well as larger type of developments. However, these types are typically found along major thoroughfares. Again, the site's access to 24 and a busy intersection at Market kind of tees it up for larger retail interests. Given the current market trends and the location, the site does have development potential under C2. So now we'll take a look at the rezoning standards, and these are kind of the steps prescribed in the zoning ordinance that outline the criteria that you're to use when making these recommendations. Consistency with the master plan and consideration for current conditions, we kind of touched base on that. But the master plan does envision some type of commercial uses there. It does have residential mixed into it. So it's not a It's not a direct correlation, but it does envision commerce on the site. Compatibility with environmental features and uses in the proposed zone, we do not cite any major environmental features or conflicts with uses in C2. Compatibility with uses in the proposed district, adjacent uses, environment, density, traffic, aesthetics, infrastructure, and influence on property values. Properties located around the site are currently zoned C1, recreation, or C2, which is on the other side of M24. C2 uses are typically found along major thoroughfares and adjacent to residential districts. The proposed site appears to be conducive to the potential, to development potential for C2, in both their permitted and special land uses. Capacity of the utilities and services, Jim Sharp from the engineering, our Sharp Engineering is here, and the fire department did include their review in your packet tonight. Neither cited any major concerns with utility capacity or the ability to service the site from the township's perspective. The compatibility with potential street traffic and capacity, again, when we look at rezonings, the permitted and special land uses in all of your zoning districts is long. So trying to gauge how much traffic one creates over the other is a bit of a guessing game. However, the site will require approval from Oakland County Road Commission and/or MDOT as it relates to either access to Market or 24. Market Street is a local road and provides a connection between Granger and Lapeer Road, including access to Dunlap Road. C2 developments on that site would probably draw a lot of their primary traffic from 24, with kind of the assumption that neighborhood traffic would come from Market Street. The demand for C2 and the overall presence of the district in the community. C2 zoning is prevalent along M24. Retail occupancy along the corridor is relatively strong. Community events that solicited feedback from residents for the current master plan that you're working on did indicate residents are in favor of more retail options in the community. The site hasn't really garnered any major interest under the C1 zoning district. And this is, you're in a situation with your commercial zones where you don't really have a C1.5. You have C1, which caps at a certain size, and then C2, which caps at another, and there really isn't an in-between, and I think that's where we're seeing some interest in the C1 zoning, kind of not going away, but just being reduced in how much land use you're actually committing to it because of those caps. The lot will conform to zoning, the zone's dimensional standards. We covered that it will if it were to be rezoned. The proposed district is more appropriate than others. So C2 uses along, and again, adjacent to Lapeer Road are quite common. C1, again, it's not, there is C1 potential there, although obviously it has not garnered any in the years that it has been zoned as such. Given the site size, proximity to 24 and other neighborhoods, there's conceivable residential zones that could work on the site, either your R1, your R1As, or your RMs could be feasible on that site, again, adjacent to the neighborhoods and the roads. And the site is big enough to warrant an industrial zone, however, that would be spot zoning. You really don't have any other industrial uses or zoning in that area. The application would not create spot zoning. It wouldn't. This is a commercial corridor. No application has been submitted in the last year. This is the first application we've seen in well over a year. And then other criteria determined by the board and the PC regarding the health, safety, welfare, public and private investment, and overall engagement of the community. So again, we've touched on it. C2 would allow for expanded uses at the site. And that would increase its investment potential. The lot does not abut any residential developments directly, again citing that you have either commercial zones around it or recreational zones around it, which consists of a golf course. And and so it doesn't abut any conflicting land uses if it were to be zoned to C2. So in summary, the rezoning is compatible with market demands, and the proposed location is conducive with uses along or adjacent to major thoroughfares. The proposed rezoning is somewhat compatible with your 2019 master plan. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. Obviously, the applicant's here this evening as well.
Okay. Any questions? We'll start down at this end.
No.
None? Okay. Any questions?
So going from C2 to C1, correct?
From C1 to C2.
C1 to C2. C1 would allow like a strip mall type commercial building, correct?
Yeah, depending on its size, yes.
Yeah, okay. And this would be more of a general larger scale building.
Yeah, you can do everything in C2 that you could do in C1. It just kind of opens up the door to more uses, and potentially larger type of developments.
In that building or buildings, right?
Correct, building or buildings.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, because that's kind of where the question was directed,
Yeah,
you know, because it was a little bit confusing to me as I read through it,
yeah.
so.
No, my apologies if there was any confusion in the report.
Nope, it wasn't because of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blanchard.
Sir?
Mr. Chair? Okay, so expanded uses, the packet outlines what it could be used for. As I'm going through the chart that talks about, you know, permitted uses and site approval required, start to look at what's different, why C1 to C2, right? That's a concern because the C2 allows a higher intensity use. And, you know, you mentioned the master plan and survey results, and all the survey results that I see indicate the township wanting less intensity, less traffic, things like that. So it's difficult to picture what could go on that site. And the higher intensity use is the concern, right? Because you pull into that development off of 24 and you see a golf course and you see open space, and then to see a high intensity use on that site is difficult to picture that being beneficial to the community, especially with the increased traffic that it could bring. I know I don't really have a question there yet, but I'm kind of getting around to it. I guess you know, it's such a broad, there's no conditions on this, right? The developer, the petitioner hasn't brought forth any information about what they're proposing to do with the site. So if it becomes a C2 and it's sold, there's a very large, well, you said it already, there's a lot more uses that it could be, could go on that site compared to today. Those are my concerns.
And
The easements that are around the property, that's shown on one of the pages, it's hard to picture how there could be an entrance off of 24 without modifications to the sign. And, you know, there's that easement there for the golf cart path that goes underneath 24. So it's hard to picture how, and I know that might be site plan, preliminary site plan, or maybe I'm jumping ahead, so forgive me if I am, you know, cut me off, let me know.
I think, not to cut you off, I mean, whatever comments or questions that you have that I can answer, I'm happy to answer. I feel like some of the things you're starting to get into and probably are best addressed by the applicant who's here tonight, but I will, like, again, whatever I can answer, I will.
I have a few more things I just want to go through, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So the changes would allow a drive-through, right? Potentially to a C2. There could be a drive-through restaurant, or drive-in. I'm just looking through the zoning book right now. Going down the chart, you know, there's a special land use under C1, but under C2 it's permitted.
Correct.
Right, so I'm going through this chart looking for, okay, why C1 to C2? What are the differences? What could potentially go there? What kind of impact would it have on the community? That's where I guess I need your guidance, right, to help me understand, you know, where we could put the health and welfare of the community in a bad spot. I just have a couple more things, sorry. Yeah, I guess there might be questions for the petitioner, if they're appropriate. I'm wondering why not something else on 24 if there's other C2 up within that area, that are vacant properties. You know, I'm looking at thinking about the future land use and If there's other C2 that's not occupied, why would we, as a community, want to increase the amount of C2, increase the amount of density when the demand's not there?
I mean, as far as market demand is concerned, I'm not equipped with hard numbers about this, that, and the other. I know that there are, I mean, the C2 site across the street is vacant, but I don't believe that it is, I don't believe that it is quote unquote available.
Okay,
But again, that's,
right.
I have nothing to offer in guarantee
Understand.
of that. I can say that along 24, you have two commercial zones, you have C1 and C2, right? Those are the only zones that you have in which, you know, you develop certain type of commercial. Traffic is obviously a major consideration. However, you as a township will see interest in C2 along M24, like that. And I'm just offering that up as context because of the location of the site. If we were, you know, if someone was talking about C2 on Drainer, it's a different, well, C2 further in on Drainer, it's a different conversation. But 24, again, I know traffic is a major concern. It's also a driver for the desire of that kind of development.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So from a master plan perspective, in the 2019 and the one we're considering now, how does that C2 rezoning affect the mixed use as it relates to how the downtown would be expanded, right? By putting a possible large retail center or something of that sort right in the middle of that, right? Are we still conducive to the master plan if we were to change to C2?
Yeah, yes, in some ways, because residential is permitted in those zones on second stories, and that's typically where you find residential in a mixed-use zone. And that master plan is a guide. There is wiggle room per certain context that you have as a community that you can deviate from what it is. I mean, this is not such a massive deviation that you really gotta figure, you know, you really have to back what it is that you're doing. Again, it's like a partial compliance with it per the commercial uses. And like I said, residential is permitted in C1 and C2 just as a second story residential.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Mateo, is there a difference in the building height or, I see that there's in the zoning that retail use of up to 10,000 square feet and gross floor area is permitted both in C1 and C2, but retail uses of up to 65,000 square feet and gross area is only permitted under C2. So that, to me, I see that, and that's a pretty significant difference, right? That if it goes to C2, the building could be up to 65,000 square feet. That's permitted for that, a single retail use. How tall could a building like that be? Do you have any idea?
I
What-
can find the answers soon enough, like, you might have to just give me a minute to look it up, but I can
Okay.
find it easily enough.
I guess it's a question I would have, like, you know, how massive could this facility be that's built there?
I mean, in general, I don't think there's this, industrial, you can get up there in like the 40-foot, 50-foot, but
Mhm.
in commercial residentials, I don't think you can go over 3 stories. I'll check what the footage is,
Okay.
but
And one more question, if you don't mind,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. I also noticed that, could there be potentially, residential space above this? I noticed that was a difference in C1, C2 potentially,
yeah.
that the developer could build residential above retail.
Correct. I mean, still conforming to the height, you know, you would still have to
Sure.
conform to all the bulk regulations, but yeah, C1 and C2 do allow upper story residential.
Okay, that's all I have right now, thank you.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. We'll move on to the petitioner, and then if we have more questions for you.
Okay.
We'll bring that. All right, let's move on to number 2, presentation by the petitioner.
Good evening, Adam Stoyer with Versa Real Estate representing the petitioner. Hope to fill in some of the blanks that Mateo presented on the zoning and what our intentions are for the site and why we are requesting the rezoning from a C1 to a C2. We are planning on a single-use building for an Aldi grocery store, which projected to be 22,000 square feet. So that's when Mateo was talking about the C1.5. We do not intend to build up to 65,000 square foot.
Hang on a second. Folks, he's presenting, please.
And then if we are successful in the request for the rezoning, we are in agreement with the seller who is here tonight to do a lot split. So we are planning on taking the frontage 4 acres off of M24 for a Aldi development. So with the lot split, it would also prohibit us from doing a bigger use store and drive-through concerns as well. So I did, with Aldi's permission, I did bring some renderings of what a potential Aldi store could look like, which I'd be happy to share right now.
Please.
So this is a prototype Aldi, about 100 parking spots, which should meet code. And then I also have a picture of what a part of the produce section would look like at Aldi. And I don't know for the audience in the back. So it would not, I don't want to, I just want to stick to the specific request
Please.
tonight, but it definitely would give the community another food option to shop at. And this would be there's 13 locations in Oakland County for Aldi. This is one of their higher requested markets as well.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, let's
Go
start
ahead.
down here.
One of the questions is, would the entrance only be off M24, or would you guys be accessing that from Market Street too?
Right now, the plan is the entrance is going to be off of Market Street. We have hired a traffic consultant, and that would have to go through the MDOT process, and with the decel lanes and the close to the curb cut off Market Street, we are not confident that we would get an entrance off of M24.
And then with that being said, there's a one way in, one way out. How would you turn around and do the traffic, considering if you were to go into Aldi? Would you be going down and turning around in Boulder Point, or would you guys be doing a turnaround there? How would you guys work that?
We have some preliminary plans which we've worked with the Oakland County Road Commission for, and that would be part of site plan approval. But yes, you would be able to turn it. We would probably, I don't know if I don't want to mess up Mateo's presentation, but there's a row of trees that we would readjust to get access in and out of the site. And residents who live in Waterstone would also be able to turn left to go to their homes, leaving the Aldi without having to go back in 24. So that's going to be more in the site plan approval process as we get there.
And then also too, do you have what are the two closest locations of Aldi that you have right now?
That's a good question. Let me look that up.
I can answer that. Lapeer and Lake Orion, down in,
So roughly-
by Great Lakes Crossing.
So roughly about 10 to 12 miles apart from each other?
Yeah, they're definitely expanding and offer high quality product, and the customers are responding positively to it.
That's all I have for now.
Okay. You had some questions, sir?
I do. The lot split. If we rezone this would all be C2, I believe, right? That, the whole entire lot. So the other half could become something else that's C2, right?
Correct.
If we move forward with that. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, I'm okay for now.
I got one more question. Would you guys be putting a light there to go into Aldi, or would you guys just do a stop sign and then they would proceed through the intersection?
We would try to get a stop sign and proceed through the intersection.
And that's all planning site plan?
Yeah,
Correct.
for Oakland County.
Please.
Yeah.
To answer the question earlier about the standards for C2, your height for C1 and C2 is capped at 35 feet, 2 stories, and then something else worth considering is for both zones, your lot coverage max is 30%. So when we start to think about what can go on this lot and or lots, should they be split down the road, is you can go 2 stories and you can only cover 30% of the lot. So again, just for context of all the different conversations.
Mateo, does that include hard surface for parking?
No, so 30% is buildings.
Building, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment.
Sure.
I just like to say I appreciate the being forthcoming about what the plans are for the property, as we know that you don't have to be, right? So we
Yeah, no,
appreciate
we
the
just thought it would give
transparency.
it Context with the vagueness of it going up to 65,000 square feet, which then it opens it up to a whole variety of uses. So our sole intention is to build an Aldi. We are working on 5 across the state, so I don't plan on doing anything else at this site, just to let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Okay. Yeah, we got one more question.
The
But it's not for
seller,
him.
Okay.
Larry Lax, was requesting it, just to present real quick.
Sure.
Thanks, Adam. Yes, my name is Larry Lax. I represent Oxy LLC, the owner of the property, and also the master developer of Waterstone. I've been involved from the very start, over 25 years. We're very proud of Waterstone development. And I must say, you know, for the last many years, as Mateo has said, there's been very little viable interest in C1 on that site. And it's not a change of use, it's a change of space. As Mateo noted, C1 is up to 10,000 feet. C2 offers just a number of more options, and therefore there's been a lot more serious interest. I guess that's basically it. And just to note that, of course, when we designed Waterstone, it was designed for these commercial properties to be accessed off Market Street. And we always anticipated that there would be crossovers made in the median to make it easy, so people using or visiting the Aldi would come off of Market Street almost immediately west of Lapeer Road. They would exit Market Street onto Lapeer Road, and at the same time, Waterstone residents will be able to have easy access to and from these properties. So, and it's designed for 2 lanes on each side of the median, and it doesn't become single lane until just about the entrance to the Boulder Point Golf Course. And these properties are a substantial distance away from the residential uses. That was the main thing I wanted to say.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I will take a motion to open public hearing, public testimony.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to open public testimony.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing is open at 7:09. We've already discussed the 3-minute time, so I will start with whoever wants to come up to the podium, give your name, address, and what you'd like to talk about. And again, when we get to the end of 3 minutes, that's a finish the last sentence, wrap it up, and move on to the next person. So.
Good evening, Mary Ann Keynes, resident of the Stony Lake Village Condo Association. I'm going to speak really fast so that I can get my thoughts in for 3 minutes. Thank you very much for identifying what type of structure is going in there, because when I looked at the package available for this evening, it was very underwhelming. I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know why the request from C1 to C2. And so I'm a little bit older and a little bit wiser and more knowledgeable. However, splitting the lots now that was stated this evening does concern me. I'm really worried about the traffic, and I will say, I love Aldi, I'm a patron of Aldi, but do I want it right in my backyard? No, I do not. And I think that the curb cuts onto Market Street rather than Lapeer Road is gonna cause a lot of traffic problem issues. I think the fact that the traffic light on Lapeer and Market Street not having left turn capability is gonna cause a lot of traffic issues. I think that our Waterstone wall and guardhouse is gonna be impacted. How do we repair it? How do we landscape it? How do we, get an easement to do that? If they're gonna have Lapeer Road and Market Street curb cuts, are we still gonna have that Waterstone wall? And I'm worried about how Waterstone, how this new parcel is gonna contribute to the budget of the Waterstone. How are they gonna be a part of the community of Waterstone? What is the rental agreement going to be? Because we are right now, the rental agreement we have with McDonald's for their contribution is not fair market value. So if we can influence that, at this point, that would be part of it as well. But I'm really, really concerned about the fact about the traffic and not having a Lapeer Road curb cutting. So with that, I'm going to bank my one last minute for the next time that I come up and speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ned. My name's Ned Zimmer. I live at 611 Bay Point Drive, Oxford Lakes. I'm actually kind of on your side. Just listening, I didn't know, like, come here expecting, I just showed up, so it was pretty cool. I agree that we need more stuff in Oxford, different options. We have the Meijer. There's not really any other grocery store, so I'm on your side with that. Where I'm not on your side is if it's the best location for use, not because
Can we
of-
keep the topic
so,
to the chair, not to the
yeah,
applicant?
sorry,
Thank you.
excuse me. So there's tons of vacant property already sitting over there. You got an old restaurant next to Tim Hortons that's blank. There's supposed to be building developments that are going in, and I don't there's plenty of property over there that could be used for something like an Aldi's. I know it's like direct competition with Meijer, so maybe you move it down where, like where that vacant Rite Aid is, or something where I understand it's like his property and he's selling it or whatever, but I just don't think that with the township being in debt like it is, with the water infrastructure stuff, and with businesses already sitting there empty, I don't know if throwing all these in is the best idea. I mean, who's gonna work there? The average Aldi employee starts at $16.50 an hour. They get raised to $18 an hour after some time, and that's just your general employees. Housing in Oxford is, the average house is $440,000. So that's just unaffordable for most average wage workers. What we need here is we need affordable housing for people to come in and work these jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Maria Karisny. I live in Gulf Highlands in Waterstone, and I just wanted to make a couple of points. The first one is, I understand that Waterstone was intended to have commercial property all along, but Waterstone is almost completely developed and we have no commercial property. This would be the first, so it would be a change for us, a big change. And I'm not opposed to the Aldi and not even opposed to the Aldi there. It would be nice to have a closer store. What I'm really opposed to is the entrance off of Market. I think that's going to be a lot of traffic cutting through Waterstone to get there. I think it's going to change the aesthetics of our entrance. So I am not happy with that, and I agree with what others have said. There's so much vacant land and vacant storefronts in Oxford that would be a better fit. There's that big restaurant right across the street by the Meijers, on Lapeer that has been vacant since I've lived here, and I've been here 7 years now. That would be a beautiful location for an Aldi. Plenty of parking, and it would not change the aesthetic of our neighborhood. It would not change the traffic and the quality of life in our neighborhood. So I guess my bottom line is, I'm not opposed to Aldi, I'm opposed to it there, especially with entrances and exits onto Market Street. That's my biggest concern, the traffic and what it's gonna do to the aesthetics of the community. And like I said, there isn't any other commercial property right now in Waterstone. That would be it, unless you count the Independence Village, so anyways, and also the split of the land is a issue too. We could get a drive-through on those other 4 acres from what you're saying, if it gets zoned to C2. And I don't want that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Brian Jenks, 672 Brooks Lane. I'm president of the Waterstone Master Association, Homeowners Association. What are you gonna do to my trees? I have concerns about the entrance being off of Market Street. There are trees that we currently take care of, big, nice trees, so I would wanna work with them on what they're going to do with that. It would be much more optimum to do it off of M24. I understand what they're saying. I know this is a completely separate issue, but the speed limit on M24, we should work to get that lowered because it's 55 up to Market Street there, and that's just way too fast. If it was slowed down, potentially with MDOT working with us, we could figure out a way to put the entrance off of M24. In addition, the other parcel that Larry has, where's, for that, if that is developed, where's the entrance for that? Is that going to be through the Aldi parking lot? These are all questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Pensack, 475 Franklin Lake Circle. I'm also a member of the executive board of the Waterstone Association, and I'm just echoing, I think the largest concern I have is the traffic. And I know that's not gonna be discussed here and decided here, but, you know, Market Street is only 25 miles per hour. We already have speeding problems along it, and I think this just could add more to that. I would, you know, really like to understand the possibilities to come in off of Lapeer Road. The other comments made by other people, we would have to work with the developer to understand, you know, what this does to their agreements of payment, right? There's a rental that we get like from McDonald's, and we'd like to understand that more, right, with Larry. That's not a showstopper at this point, but we do need to dig into that. And we do want to see more plans of how this would fit in, as other people said, the aesthetics to what's existing there already, our existing guardhouse and existing walls and all of that. But the biggest thing is the traffic. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing,
I do have one other thing. It's about the front entrance that we have for Waterstone and just how they really would want to work with them on how it's going to be affected. We do have the guardhouse there and we got a whole entrance that we just re-landscaped, so we want to be very involved in it.
I can,
let me, hang on, we gotta close out the public comments first. Anybody else want to speak before we close that out? Okay, with that, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, motion to close the public hearing?
A second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any last discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to comments from the consultants and staff, and then we'll get to yours as well.
Good evening, Jim Sharp, Sharp Engineering, Township Engineer. It sounds like a broken record, a few of the other rezonings that have come through recently. We're basically looking at the infrastructure that would be associated with a move from C1 to a C2 zoning here. You have my letter in your packet, but just a quick little overview as far as sanitary sewer goes. There was an 8-inch sanitary sewer line that exists on the property, so this property was obviously thought of in the future for some type of development. So there is an 8-inch sanitary sewer line, and it's in the sanitary sewer district, and there is capacity in that sewer line. With regards to the water, same thing, there's a 16-inch water line that's on the south side of Market Street, a 12-inch water line that's on the west side of M24. So again, it is in the water district, and there won't be any problem servicing a C2 development at this location here. With regards to storm sewers, storm water, there is not really an outlet on the property. They would probably have to do some sort of a retention facility. Again, not uncommon to other areas that we see with commercial developments in the area. They could do a pond, they could do some stormwater system underneath their parking lot. Soils there are very, very impervious, so I wouldn't anticipate any problems as far as any type of stormwater issues with that. With regards to the pavements, they're in the roadways, again, we talked about Market Street ad nauseum here. It is a road commission roadway, and so any approvals and curb cuts through that island that is in there, that would need approval from the Oakland County Road Commission. On M24, again, state highway, that would need approvals from MDOT. If you look at the turn lane, I just kind of was looking at an aerial photo coming northbound on M24 as you approach Market Street. That speed limit there is 40 miles an hour. The turn lane begins essentially right at the golf course tunnel, which is just basically at the south end of this property. That's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, and the turn lane is that long. As one of the residents had indicated, it's 55 coming the other direction. So for MDOT to put a turn lane in there to allow that to happen, I think it's highly unlikely. I understand the residents' concerns about additional traffic, but that turn lane, because the speed is higher, would probably be even longer and would have to extend past their property, because they're not gonna start a turn lane on the north side of Market Street. So, again, I'm not the traffic expert here. They have obviously hired a traffic consultant, and that traffic consultant's gonna come back with his, his thoughts as well and his report, so we'll kind of let that, but just to give you, like, just to maybe answer some of the concerns that are out there. With regards to, we also looked at safety paths. Everything's in the existing safety path. I believe that's probably located in that easement that you're seeing right there. The safety path is in a little bit of disrepair, so we would ask that the applicant kind of not only with any accesses, but also maybe look at repairing some of that surface in that area as well. That's really about it. I'm gonna say this, and again, there's also been discussions about this location and maybe why can't we put it across the street and so forth. And I know that Mr. Lax is probably aware of this as well, but there are deed restrictions on those properties over there from when Meyer came in. So some of those properties on the east side of M24, they cannot have a competitive shopping center or grocery store like Meyer. There are deed restrictions over on those properties, and that could be another reason why they're looking at this particular facility. Again, we're talking about an Aldi here tonight, but keep in mind, this is from a C1 to a C2 zoning. I don't believe that they're going to do a bait and switch. We have had a pre-application meeting, but keep that in mind too, that you are looking from a C1 to a C2 zoning at this point, and I would expect that this is what they're gonna move forward with, but that's what you're really looking at here as well. So, regarding infrastructure, are there any questions, any things that I could answer?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you just elaborate on the stormwater a little bit? You mentioned that there's gonna have to be some sort of retention pond or detention pond. That would have to drain off somewhere. Are you thinking the soil would just have to absorb that at some point?
Yeah, and that is not uncommon.
Okay.
The tropical smoothie and the Leos County, that has a retention system in the back and everything just percolates into the soil. The Tractor Supply percolates into the soil. The Culver's has a pond to the west of it, percolates into the soil. So as long as they can provide, the necessary storage and the pipes under the parking lot, or the pond is of a certain size that meets the requirements of the township, which we generally follow the Oakland County Water Resource Commission standards. As long as they can meet those requirements, yes, infiltration into the ground is a viable option.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
What about the golf course side? Are there going to be golf balls coming in, or would they be having a fence on that perimeter back? Is that something that they have to be zoned to do and to block that area, or is it just fair game?
Fair game, I think. You
Okay.
ever played at Oxford Hills?
Well, long time ago.
Parking lot's right there, so I'm not aware of any, that they would have to put a fence up or anything. They may want to do that for their own benefit, because so patrons come to their store and don't have to get worried about pummeled with golf balls.
It's not about that. It's about injuring people coming in and out. If it's very traffic, if there's traffic going in and out there. I know that on the golf course side, there's residential and there's nets. So that's why I was wondering if the township offers or any ordinance for that, because that is an issue that I've seen in this community.
Yeah, the way the hole is set up, I've seen you golf, and so maybe you would pull one into the parking lot there.
Probably.
but
I don't golf
It'd be
that
a pretty
much.
good pull to do that, but I understand the concern.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we have requirements for that.
Because where they're putting this, the green is right there. So people will be hitting off the tee and being able to hit that. Because it's a drivable hole.
Not too far away, I guess. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
One clarification.
Yep.
Just to offer clarification, if the commission wasn't aware that for rezoning or text amendments, your bylaws state that in order to take an affirmative action, either affirmative recommendation of approval, or an affirmative recommendation of denial, or an affirmative recommendation of whatever, your bylaws state that you need 4 votes. So being here 5 tonight, it is not a quorum-based vote, it is a by head count vote, so you do need 4 affirmative votes.
Correct.
So, one clarification.
Thank you. You had one last thing you wanted to add?
Yes. I wanted to make 2 points based on the residents' concerns, and this will hopefully get further down in site planning approval, but we are not altering the Waterstone side or the gatehouse, and that's part of our entrance off Market Street. And in our agreement with the purchase agreement does have us contributing an amount towards the general maintenance of Waterstone, like McDonald's. I don't know what that amount is, but that's something we'll work out in the future. So I just wanted to make those 2 points, but also keep in the spirit of this is a zoning change request as well.
Correct. Okay, we will move on to any correspondence. Did we receive any emails or letters on this one? Okay. So we will move to commission discussions. I want to start down with you, sir.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I just, some of the comments we heard tonight, just to summarize, nothing against the company. Aldi looks like a good product, but the location is just not, I just don't see it going there. It just doesn't fit. I think about wording that we have in our current master plan about the natural capacity of the land, and this development just does not appear to fit in that location.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I somewhat disagree in that this street was intended to have shopping centers in the neighborhood, and this has actually been pushed out to the main road, so it still has the same benefits of having a a marketplace in your neighborhood, only it's not in the neighborhood. It's already zoned commercial, so this would just give it the opportunity to be an Aldi and not something much larger. So I think that's a benefit. If it's going to be developed, then we got to think about the future development and what is coming before us and maybe what could come before us. So that's all I have.
I'm gonna agree with Commissioner Blankenship. I've lived in Waterstone for 22 years now, and I love the community. I'm for Aldi coming in. The reason why is because that's been vacant for so long, and we don't see anything else coming in. I would hate to have something else come in that's an eyesore. And I believe that Aldi has a very good reputation. They're one of my customers, and I think that they are very viable and they're very good in the communities they come, and they do offer help to the communities. So it's not like they're just gonna come in and be like every other grocery store. They're gonna come in to be like Meijer. They're gonna come in and they're gonna benefit the community. So it's better than having somebody come in to benefit the community than per se come in and not do anything to the community. That's my comment.
And I agree.
Okay. I'm in the same boat. I'd like to see something in there. I looked at this many times this week, and I know traffic is always the big discussion. I'll be honest, I don't see where it's going to be a lot of additional traffic, if you will. I think a lot of that is going to come from the Waterstone community pulling in. And I know when we talked about, the entrance off 24, actually, I'm kind of dead set against that one, because if I was coming on Market, I wouldn't want to pull onto 24 or right into Aldi's. You're just asking to get rear-ended with those 60 and 70 mile an hour speeds that people are driving. Coming in right off a Market, being able to go right back out. I think that's a pretty good thing, in my opinion. I guess with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the rezoning request for the parcel located on Market Street in Oxford Township, tax ID 04-22-151-015, from C1 Local Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District based on the findings of the fact outlined in section 18.6 of the zoning ordinance as set forth in the discussion of the Planning Commission on the record, which confirm that the request meets the eligibility requirements for rezoning.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we may have a potential conflict of interest. Now that we know the proposed site is to be used for a particular business that is a customer of one of the commissioners, it might be best to ask to abstain from the vote.
I don't work directly with Aldi. I just have done work for Aldi, so it is not a direct
Okay.
customer. So yes,
Thank
I
you
already
for
know that.
clarification. Appreciate it.
Yep. I've never once directly worked with Aldi.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
All subcontractors.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any last discussion? With that, can we have a roll call vote?
Austin,
Yes.
Blankenship,
Yes.
Plosick,
No.
Dirk,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to number 10, unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business. New business. New business, PC 25-006 TNT fireworks extended hours. Applicant requested request is to extend hours of operation to 10 p.m. of an administratively approved temporary sales tent at 900 North Lapeer Road, Meyer parking lot, parcel 0422200030, zone C2, general commercial. Applicant is TNT Fireworks, care of Charles Fries. Did I pronounce that right? Okay. Same procedure on this. We'll start with presentation by the planner.
Yeah, Passalacqua, Carlisle Overman Associates, we're the township consultants for the township. Okay, so the way your ordinance is set up is, anyone looking to do like a temporary sales, depending on the period of time or the duration, is administratively reviewed and approved by the township. However, there is a provision in there that they want to operate beyond the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, or any day of the week. They have to come to you to get that permission granted to them. So TNT Fireworks is looking to set up shop in the Meyer parking lot from June 27th, I believe, to July 6th. My apologies, I cannot find my notes, but I was looking at today, so I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Everything that they proposed meets standards. In their application, they did reference at one point a generator, so we did reach out to them to get a little bit more clarification on that. And what they provided back is included in the packet with an email that states that, they primarily look to use a battery system to provide electricity, but that should that battery source run out, they do have a small generator that they referenced would make as much for, as a domestic truck idling in the parking lot. And that would only be used when needed. They did provide some letters of reference from other communities that they've worked in, but again, they've met all the requirements. They are just here this evening to request to operate beyond 7 o'clock, as late as 10 p.m. That would be 7 days a week. We do have other temp firework setups in the community that have been granted this extension, and you have been given a motion or a draft motion this evening. We typically recommend that whatever motion you make, if you make the motion to approve the extra hours, that you provide the condition that actually carries over from year to year, so long as there's no substantial changes to what they're proposing, year over year, it's the same application, same spot, same setup, and that they don't have any open violations of the township. So with that, I can answer any questions the applicants here tonight as well.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Wait, actually, I have one.
Go for it.
You said that, how many other locations that have actually from 7 to 10? Is there one or two, or is there?
I am only familiar with one.
Okay.
And that was one that was granted before my time, and again, has just come back with the same thing every year
Okay.
and operated as such.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Mr. Chair, sorry. This is something that's been happening in the past, and this is just another year of renewal for that same request?
This is a new request, and so if they had just said, we're gonna open from 7 to 7, you'd never see it. But if they want to operate beyond that, up till 10 p.m., they need your permission to do so.
Mhm.
But that's the only thing that you're really reviewing here.
Right.
And like I said, what we've done before my time, but what the township has done in the past is with other applicants who've come before you, instead of them coming to you every May, every summer asking, as long as they're not, they didn't get a bunch of complaints, they didn't violate this, that, or the other, and they brought us the same proposal, we just assume carry it over year to year.
Okay, so we're voting on the ability to do this in perpetuity as long as they want to come back year after year.
With the same, what you see, yes, with the same site plan, I mean, if they wanna move the tent to a different part of the parking lot, it's back in front of you.
Okay,
If they wanna expand, if they wanna bring 2 tents instead of 1, it's back in front of you. But if they bring me, the township, this every year, and we don't have recorded violations as it relates to, noise violations or nuisance violations, then we would like the condition, the ability to continually approve them administratively for that time to operate.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
This is in line with Meyer's hours already, right? The parking lot has traffic. I don't see this being something that would have a negative impact to the neighbors at all, because of traffic.
Are you making a statement or asking a question? I just wanna make sure.
Oh, well, yes, yeah. Sorry I do that to you all the
No,
time.
no, no, you're fine. No, when.
It takes me a minute to formulate the thought, right, or the question. So are Myers hours outside of these hours? I think they are. Do you know that?
I don't believe, they're till 12 at night, actually.
They're
Yeah.
12, so Myers till midnight.
I believe it's in the packet. The hours for Meyer are actually extended before and after
Right,
when they would be operating.
I agree.
Any last question? Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we will take the presentation by the petitioner.
Good evening. My name's Chuck Freeze with TNT Fireworks. I come from Three Rivers, Michigan, over by Kalamazoo. In the packet, if there's a Meyer permission letter, you see we work with several of their stores across the state, working most closely, and the reference that we had is from Washington Township Meyer. We've been there several years, and luckily she gave me a good standing. And similar thing, it's the sun doesn't even go down until 9:30 almost, and once you kind of get to that 10 o'clock window, really, I'm only looking to stay open that late, on like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th of July, if you really want to get down to it, just because of, that's when people think about it, it's all their sales are at the end. Just the tent being there, people see it a couple days before. So I do appreciate consideration for the couple extra hours. I will note that I was over that there today, noticed the gas station closes at 10 p.m. as well. And so we would be closing similar time as the gas station, but the store hours are 6 a.m. till midnight for the general retail. If you have any other questions, or even about the generator. Again, like you said, it's only for the late night, but the end of that time frame after dusk.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'm clear.
Okay. And then, do we need a public hearing on this one?
I don't believe so.
I don't
but
believe
you
so.
can Consult, plan or pass along.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. Any last questions? I guess we'll entertain a motion.
All right. I move that the planning commission approve the extended hours of operation until 10 p.m. for TNT Fireworks, 900 North Lapeer, 04-22-200-030, zoned C2 commercial, general commercial. Applicant TNT Fireworks, care of Charles Freeze. This approval is based upon the following findings. The temporary sales permit has been administratively reviewed and approved, with the exception of the extended hours, and the proposed later hours of operation until 10 p.m. will not create unreasonable impacts on the adjoining properties due to the current zoning conditions and uses of those properties. Further, this approval is conditioned upon the following. This approval shall be valid in future years for this temporary use provided. The temporary use is substantially similar to the proposed use as it has been presently administratively approved. There are no substantial changes to the surrounding properties that require review of these extended hours, and the applicant does not have open violations with the township. Any additional unresolved items identified at the planning commission meeting? I read that and I didn't need to. Strike the last one.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then the second item of new business, and this is more for discussion. I had been appointed as the planning commission representative for the safety path committee, but with work travel and crazy meetings that get called last minute, I've missed the last couple and suggested that if somebody else would be interested, not looking to make a decision tonight, but just throwing it out there if there's a discussion, if anybody is interested. It does meet once a month, I believe, but it is during the day around 11 o'clock. So, with that, I know you might have an interest, but you had some questions. So just throwing that out there. If anybody has any questions or discussions or interest.
Do we know when that, is it the same day and time every month?
So I do attend those meetings. It's been a little sporadic recently, but Mr. Wagner is the chairman of that committee, and he is trying to do it the third Thursday of the month at 1 o'clock. What they're targeting right now. Is that right, Danielle?
Something like that.
It sounds about right.
Seeing as how the planning commission may have conflict with the time, could we ask Mr. Wagner to entertain moving it to a later time in the day?
Excuse me? Sorry, I was trying to find that date.
I was just asking if maybe we could ask Mr. Wagner, who chairs that committee, to possibly move it to a later time of the day so that some of the planning commissioners could opt to
Yeah.
help out on that committee.
And he may be willing to do that. They said that it was kind of flexible. They're just trying to, get something where they're meeting once a month, but if it happens to be at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock at the end of the day, I think that he would be open to that based on our last discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that gonna be a conflict of interest for me since I do most of the safety path work in Oxford?
I don't believe so, Ryan. I mean, I'm not an attorney,
Okay.
so I'd have to be.
Are we able to find that out? I don't know if that's something that,
Say anything about that, but, I mean, at that meeting, we're discussing the future plans and so forth, but anything that we do, as you're well aware, has to go out for bid.
Mhm.
So there's no guarantee that you're actually going to get the work. You may have a little bit of knowledge above other bidders per se, but again, anything that we do that's over a certain dollar amount has to go out for public bid, so there's no guarantee that you would get the work.
there is consideration though, with a, obviously consideration if I'm close. So it doesn't have to be low bid on that.
True, it's, whatever.
And I don't wanna sway,
Qualified.
well,
or
I don't wanna
something like
sway,
that.
I don't wanna sway the decision makers if I'm on the board. That's all. I just don't, I wanna be proper.
I get, that would probably be, that might be a good question for,
Jack?
for Attorney Ellis.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we can get an answer on that. We can get an answer on your timing and then revisit this at the next meeting, because again, we're not
Yeah.
making any definitive decisions tonight.
That's fine.
I just thought it'd be a good idea to ask so we
Sure.
can get some clarifications.
Okay. So we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 12, communication committee reports. We don't have, ordinance review committee report, I believe, since he's not here tonight.
ORC.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? I can give something.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is now I can put in Jim's face while we. Yeah, no? I find it. That's a classic, Jim. Just as a side note to the conversation about the safety van, and not to disagree with Jim, I think it's more or less just to err on the side of caution and refer to the township's legal counsel as it relates to potential conflict of interest you may have on certain committees. So that's kind of where I would direct that.
Yep.
So, as it relates to ORC, we meet next week, but, right now we're working on industrial bulk standards and setbacks, just as it relates to some of the challenges that some of the industrially zoned areas have based on those setbacks and things of that nature. So the ORC is working on some amendments that would make their way hopefully to the planning commission in June. We might bundle it with some other things depending on what else we have going on, but that's kind of the latest and the greatest.
Thank you. You want to stay up and do the planner and engineering reports? Might as well.
Yeah, engineering, yeah, I can do that. It's all voodoo talk. Yeah, so for planning, I can't say, I mean, it's been busy at the township office with phone calls. It's that time of year where, shovels go on the ground for projects big and small, so we've been really busy. I will say that next week, the township board will be voting on whether or not to send the master plan out for the 63-day review period, or voting to send it back to you with, questions, comments. If they do vote to send it out, the 63-day period starts. We kind of wait to see what comes in, and then the planning commission would hold a public hearing after that. One last run with the master plan and one last recommendation up to the board. So that 63 days from May, August, September, when we're talking about it again.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You good?
Anything new that you saw in your packet?
No.
I think it's the same one that they only update it once a month, but I think it's the same one you had in your previous packet.
It is. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.